Welcome back to another edition of the Gurus, guys. Xaiver and Mike Testa. We're here to do an NBA opening slate review, and then later we're going to talk about that gambling investigation that has taken the world by storm here. I can't believe what's going on with the NBA, and we're going to talk about it because I think the first few games on the slate here were really positive for the league. I think the league has great buzz right now. And perhaps it was all undone this morning. But, Mike, initial thoughts here. It's good to have the NBA back.
It really is good to have the NBA back. Obviously, last night we had the NBA on ESPN with Inside the NBA coming back on a different network. Also, Tuesday was the actual opening night. We had OKC and Houston. What a ball game that was. I think we both thought OKC would kind of run away with it, and that big ball experiment for Houston wouldn't work. By the way, I don't know if anyone heard, they don't have a point guard. That was making the rounds the entire game. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, no one knows who to inbound the basketball to on Houston. They're like, they needed help on the inbound. So that was really funny. But overall, a really good first two nights for the NBA until this morning, where we might have another rest as we speak. So it was just a bunch of mayhem these last 6-7 hours, as far as gambling goes, and Terry Rozier, Chauncey Billups. Now the Malik Beasley thing, the Malik Beasley thing is still ongoing, so we'll see about that. But overall, the first two nights of hoops were really, really, really good.
Yeah, I just want to get into it because there's so much to talk about. And the way we did this, we kind of did some mini categories here. We did some superlatives and we did some like either ors. We just tried to fit everything we could into this. So the first thing off the bat here is the most important development. So Mike, this is just like what stood out to you the absolute most from all the games that we've seen so far.
Yeah, for me, it was, Wemby obviously is the big one here, but I want to go back to Tuesday night, opening night, because I don't think we really knew what to expect from Houston as a whole. We were like, okay, how's this going to work with the no spacing, the no point guard against this suffocating OKC defense? And what did we see in that second half? We saw Sengun have like a Dirk Nowitzki-esque performance, 39, 11, and 7 on 5 made threes. By the way, I don't know how this Rocket season is going to go. But I can tell you right now, if Sengun's hitting 5 threes a game, I don't know how sustainable it is. Probably not sustainable at all. But if he's hitting 5 threes a game, they're going to be just fine. They're going to be pretty good. They lost by 1 to Oklahoma City in a double overtime thriller. But Sengun, man, maybe we should watch more Euroball. I mean, in the offseason, that was really impressive what he did. I mean, Caruso, we know, is a pest defender. We know he doesn't really care. They can put Caruso on bigs all the time, and he's still able to win those matchups. Sengun was going right at him. He was going right at anybody, really. And he was hitting these like Dirk-esque, 18-footers. He was hitting these pick and pop threes. I was like, whoa. I mean, the Rocket spacing was still kind of a mess. I mean, they had some possessions late where I was like, who's the ball going to here? I mean, it was like Durant pull up mid-range to save a terrible possession where no one knows what the heck they're doing. But Sengun in that second half, really, I was like, if this is what we're going to get all season, again, it's opening nights, you don't really know. But that was really, really impressive against that Oklahoma City defense, who obviously we can marvel about the Cason Wallaces, the Alex Carusos, how good they were when they flipped that game around when they came in the game. But Sengun keeping the Rockets offense afloat when we really didn't know what to expect from this Rockets offense, I think that's a really important development, because if that's the Sengun we get all year, Houston's live. I mean, we talk about Denver, Oklahoma City, Houston. If that's the Sengun we're going to get with Kevin Durant, obviously we know he can hit, efficient. He's one of the most efficient scorers of our lifetime. Obviously, they still have a point guard issue, but Sengun, that was my most important takeaway from night one. Him, looking like he's taking another leap. Playing next to Steven Adams in that double big lineup. He was really, really impressive to me against Oklahoma City.
Yeah, and we heard about it all summer that Sengun was taking this leap in Eurobasket, but it's one of these things where if you watch Eurobasket, you kind of have to go to the corners of the internet to access it. It's just a really tough experience for us American viewers. So I can't say I watched really any of it. I saw some highlights on the Twitter machine, but that was kind of the extent of it. But if that's what it looked like this summer, I understand what the hype is now, because the shot looked really good. It seemed like he kind of went to the Nikola Jokic shot put camp and just was kind of flinging it up, but it was going in. So that's all that matters. And Sengun's always been confident with the shot. It hasn't looked great at times, but clearly it was a point of emphasis for him this year, and it looked good, at least on night one. You already touched on this, though. For me, it has to be Victor Wembanyama's 40-point performance in only 30 minutes of play. It is one of the most dominant showings I can remember, particularly against a team that is supposed to be this defensive-oriented bunch in Dallas. And Anthony Davis had absolutely no chance. And to me, what was so crazy was Wemby was making AD look like a child throughout this.
Literally kids.
And this idea that we had of Wemby where it's almost like you load up a video game and you make one of the characters abnormally tall and they're able to just kind of dunk without jumping, and it's just not fair. Wemby's kind of the real life version of that. Yeah. And there was a particular play, he cuts baseline, he does a behind the back dunk, and he barely jumped. It looked like it was easy for him, but in the same manner, he's so aggressive in the way he plays at this point, and it's so forceful. It's not really this finesse-based game anymore. He only took a pair of triples last night. This was a inside the arc game from Wemby, and that's what we were kind of talking about last year. Can he get to this point where he's a force around the rim? Because I thought too many times last year he was trying to be Kevin Durant, where Victor at this point is at least 7'5", 7'6", somewhere around there. Yeah. You have to at least go to the basket more. And he did use some of his guard-like skills on a lot of the drives. He was kind of blowing by these bigs with those skills that he has. But at least he was living around the paint, and I thought that was the biggest takeaway, that if Victor Wembanyama is going to be a top 3 player in the league, San Antonio has, if they don't have enough pieces, they at least have enough depth to be able to make something happen here. They can move some of these guys, like the 3 guards that we mentioned, or they can just stay pat. They really have endless avenues if Wemby's immediately going to be this guy. We were skeptical of this ascension only because of the injury risk.
Right.
It's been anything tied to his height, just a natural 7-footer, you're going to get hurt, to blood clots, which is a serious health issue that he couldn't have really predicted. So it's kind of been all over the board for him. But if he can stay healthy and if he can stay on the floor, the two-way dominance is just off the charts. It's ridiculous. It's to the point where I don't know if we're going to have to put San Antonio in the fringy title mix, but they at least have to be on a short consideration, right? They at least have to be talked about in this conversation at this point. Even if it's one of the last few names of teams here, they at least have to be uttered.
There was a 2-minute stretch that Wemby had yesterday. I mean, look, all 29 minutes he played was unbelievable, but there was a 2-minute stretch, I believe it was the third quarter, where he goes down there, flag blows by a defender, looks like he has a clean layup, and then Wemby swats it out of the sky. I don't even know where he came from, really. I still don't really know where Wemby came from, but he just swatted it out of the sky. And then on the very next possession, he goes down, and I believe he beats Lively to the left, off one leg, banks it off the glass. And then on the very next possession defensively, Lively catches it. Kind of a tough catch, but he tries to go up over Wemby, and Wemby just swats it down literally like a kid on the driveway with your dad. And when you're 8 years old, I think Jay Billis literally said that verbatim. It was like Lively tried to go up, and Lively literally looked like a toddler trying to go up against Wemby at the rim. Wemby swatted it out of the sky. And then he toys with Lively and goes hezzy, tween, step back 3, 4-point play. All that within a 45 to 1 minute span. I was like, okay, this is not real life. This is 2K generated AI. What am I witnessing here? And then he would take off from the free throw line with these long arms and just, it was make believe stuff last night. I really couldn't believe what I was watching, because I thought that Dallas, at least interior would create problems for a lot of teams. And I think they still will. But Lively and AD both, literally 7-footers, looked like children trying to stop Wembanyama. It was really, really impressive stuff from Wemby. I don't know if there's going to be a more impressive 29-minute game this year than what we just saw last night from Wembanyama.
I doubt it. And the other thing that we haven't even mentioned, just the touch around the basket, it was really just, oh my gosh, everything was on display. He had a turnaround jumper that looked pure that he hit a few times. He did this kind of floater off the backboard that he did a few times as well. He was doing some dream shakes. It was kind of everything that you can imagine. Cutting baseline, just effortlessly dunking. It was so complete of a game that it also felt sustainable, because there was so many things in the repertoire that he was putting on display, and everything looked effortless. And that's kind of what we were promised with Victor Wembanyama. He's this 7-foot-plus unicorn that we've seen guys like this before, so we've been told. Ball, Kristaps Porzingis, Tony Kukoc in the 90s, I think about it, as a guy that's supposed to be able to do all these things. But none of them have had necessarily the swiftness, the ability to kind of move laterally like Victor Wembanyama's had. And to me, that's all the difference, because he is just taller than those guys. He is more athletic than those guys. He's better laterally than those guys. And when you put that all together, You have the most imposing basketball player, particularly in this century, but maybe ever.
Maybe ever.
You think of just physical forces in the past. You think of Wilt and Bill Russell compared to what the league looked like at that time. You think of early 2000 Shaq. But this is so different because you have a blend of kind of all these guys. You have these hyper athletic bigs. Dirk Lively is one of the best athletes in the NBA. There's no question about that. And Victor Wembanyama is levels above him. So if he's levels above him, what does that make Victor Wembanyama? It makes him this alien species that everyone kind of refers to him as, and he's just so far ahead of everyone else. If this is what we get, this is potentially the best player in the world.
Did you see the Dream Shake stuff? He was apparently working with Hakeem Olajuwon in the offseason, like the footwork and stuff. Who let him train with Hakeem?
Here's the thing, Mike. It's not new. I've seen a lot of guys train with Hakeem. I remember Dwight Howard was one of them. LeBron, and it just never really worked. There was other bigs as well that went to the Hakeem camp. I know Sengun did, and it sure looks like he did. And I know Wemby did, and it sure looks like he did. So maybe Hakeem's been able to reach these young guys at a different level. I don't know. But I want to talk about another Spurs performance last night as well that will not get any headlines because of what Victor Wembanyama did, but I thought it was really impressive. Stephon Castle, 22, 7, and 6, 8 of 12 from the floor, and he only missed one two-pointer. This was just a flawless performance from the reigning Rookie of the Year. To me, this is more about the Spurs' longevity than maybe even Wemby, because we had visions that Wemby could be a top 10 guy. We didn't know how consistent it'd be. We don't know like the levels that he can reach, but we know Wemby's going to be a problem. Castle was more of a question mark because last year, of course, he was kind of hyped up as really the only good above average rookie once McCain went down. It was really only Castle. Guys like Bezelis and Risa Shea had good stretches, but it was really only Castle that was consistent at any point. But with De'Aaron Fox coming in, who didn't play last night, and then Dylan Harper being drafted, I was a little bit concerned about Castle's development heading into year two. And last night, he was the primary ball handler. He looked like the point guard. He wanted to be the point guard at UConn. There was kind of question marks about that. Was he going to be able to do that? He was apparently stellar at it in high school, but with the Huskies, he never really showed prowess at being a true point guard. Last night, he looked like was born to play point guard. He was kind of doing everything. I thought his athleticism was off the charts. He was doing a great job cutting in the lane and setting up for others. To me, just the table setting was off the charts for him. I didn't really know he had that in his bag. I've seen glimpses of it, but to me, this was just the full display. And if I'm the Spurs and I'm Mitch Johnson, I now have to think about when De'Aaron Fox comes back, how much am I going to play Dylan Harper? Because I think Fox is great with the ball, but I think he has great slashing ability as well. You can kind of kick it to him on the wing. He's a decent enough shooter, and he can go downhill. But you can have Castle and Fox kind of divvy up the table setting responsibilities. But that then leaves this kind of gap behind them that Harper filled that I don't know if that's sustainable. I think you need Castle playing like 30, 35 minutes a night. I think you need Fox playing 30, 35 minutes a night. And if you're Harper, if you're only playing 10, 15 minutes a night, that's going to hurt your development, particularly as a rookie. I don't necessarily know if he fits this timeline, if Castle's going to be this good as well. I think last night, the Spurs kind of ran into the best problem you can. Your team's clearly ahead of schedule. I think that's what I saw. Too many of these guys are better than advertised, if you will. And if that's the case, it leaves a guy like Harper maybe on the out. So I thought both of those things were kind of underrated last night. And I thought Harper looked pretty solid as well.
Oh, I did too.
Not much of kind of a detraction of him. It's just more of a compliment to Castle
development. Yeah. I mean, by the way, there's never a bad thing to have too many problems or too many options. Too many options is never a problem. I mean, look at OKC. They have so many options. I thought it was really interesting. Castle's offensive development. It came right on the heels, though. I want to talk about defensively. He did a really good job on flag, I thought, for the most part. They put the number one, or not the number one pick, but he put the former Rookie of the Year on the Rookie of the Year favorite this year, Cooper Flag, for stretches of that game. I think he held his own for sure. And this comes on the heels a day later than Cason Wallace, who was really awesome as well defensively, and then showed some offensive prowess. He had hit 4 threes for Oklahoma City. So, I mean, it's a huge development for Castle, because that's the year two jump is what we want to see. And I mean, he was way better than I think either of us anticipated last night. certainly. I thought on both sides of the ball. I thought obviously the 22, 7, and 6, that's really impressive. Obviously on the efficiency too, but defensively, I thought he did a really good job when he was, on the prize of primary as a primary defender. I wanted to talk about Jonathan Kuminga though. I'm not even a Kuminga guy, as you know. I'm not really. I don't really have much stock in Kuminga Island. I was like, Steve Kerr doesn't really like him. He's going to get traded to an Eastern Conference team that's going to win 30 games. He's going to be able to, kind of do whatever. In this, I kind of thought he was like the Jordan Poole of this, like another young guy.
Yeah, I thought he was destined to be a Chicago Bull. That's what it felt like his destiny was.
It felt like it, yeah. I mean, he just, like, how does he fit with all these old guys on this Golden State Warriors team? It's like, does he really fit in with these guys? Does Steve Kerr himself beef? But, man, again, it was just the Lakers on Tuesday night, but he was really impressive. I was like, hey, maybe he's been working in the offseason. I mean, the three-pointer looked much improved. Again, just one night. He was tasked with guarding Luka for a majority of the night as well. Tough guard. Obviously, he was getting called for some fouls on Luka, but I mean, they're giving him a bigger role. So maybe if there is a Jonathan Kuminga leap, Tuesday night was a pretty good, start. 17 points, 9 and 6 on 4 of 6 from downtown. The Warriors need all that offensive output. I really think that I'm not going to make too much of the Warriors as far as like who they played. I think we both agree that the Lakers defense is a mess. I mean, they had 8 and they were picking on 8 in the whole game. It was really embarrassing. But I don't think the Warriors offense is like this offensive engine, offensive hub. I think that they had a good showing against the Lakers defense, which is going to be probably one of the bottom 10 in the league. But I think Jonathan Kuminga, that could be sustainable. If that is, then the Warriors really need that, because again, we talked about this is an old roster. Butler probably gonna miss a couple weeks just for something nagging. Steph Curry, how much longer can he just run around the court at age 37? Draymond's already getting teed up. Al Horford's literally 40. So it's just like they need Jonathan Kuminga's next level to kind of be unlocked, because I don't think Pods is really going to be like that kind of, he's kind of like a glue guy for them. Gary Payton, same thing. Jonathan Kuminga's development is a real thing to watch. I think, it's like they kind of welcomed him back at the very last second. They're like, I guess you need us, we need you. And they definitely needed him on Tuesday night. I mean, that offensive output really helped them win that game.
They don't win that game without him. I thought he was that critical to the performance. 100%. I thought Kuminga, for the most part, looked like he was super confident. And he always kind of has, but with some of the spats with Kerr, it definitely waned at times. It seems like he'd go in hot, maybe a little overzealous, and then Kerr would yank him, and that would clearly take a toll on Kuminga's, mood. It was very clear with the body language that he was showing that he didn't feel welcomed there. It doesn't take an expert to kind of read between the lines with that. And Kuminga on Tuesday was just a totally different guy. He seemed really confident within the offense. He was kind of not chasing stats like I feel like he has in the past. He was just playing basketball normally, and he is a mismatch for a lot of guys. He's kind of this weird blend of Chris Webber and a modern wing, where he's physical down low. He has a lot of stuff in the low post, but he can also work around the perimeter. Yeah. He has a decent three-point stroke and 4 for 6 from beyond the arc.
That'll play.
And all of them in rhythm, big shots as well at crucial points of the game.
Right.
I just thought he was excellent. So that's definitely something to watch out. Again, Kuminga's career really has been up and down. It's never really been this straight line, good month here, bad month there. It's kind of game to game, really. It's that drastic. So I just want to see it a little bit more out of him. But I thought the signs were really encouraging.
Yeah, no, 100%. They were really encouraging. I think that's just as from a game to game standpoint. We're gonna keep track of Kuminga and see if this is okay. Is it still a week to week thing, a game to game thing? His progression, we'll keep an eye on that. But it looked like it really fit. Like the offense was not forced. The threes were in rhythm. He looked like he was now a part of. Again, it's a very old team, but they've played together for a long time. I mean, aside from like Butler and Horford, but like this offense that the Warriors run is very common, and it looked like he was getting stuff in rhythm in the offense that just made sense. It fit. It wasn't like Kuminga's just going out and getting his own shot. Like we saw that in the playoffs against the Timberwolves. It was just like, okay, put Kuminga in for like 7 minutes and watch him kind of just ISO and get his own buckets. Kind of just out of whack. Everyone's standing around watching Kuminga dribble the basketball. But this one was much more fluid, if you know what I mean. Like it was much more, it made sense. The way he was scoring made sense to their team build and how they can win games. So I thought that was really impressive. It was an underrated showing to me.
It always felt so clunky, but for once it felt like he was kind of doing what Kerr asked of him, and you see the result. So maybe Kuminga's finally turning the corner. I'm excited for this category, though. The overshadowed situation that could make headlines. So there were some things that just fall through the cracks throughout a game, whether it's just better performances or whatnot. But I wanted something here that might not be making news now, but
No.
could be in a few weeks.
Right. Yeah. So you went with a good headline. I went with a not so good headline. So the big offseason move for the Pistons to replace Malik Beasley was to give Duncan Robinson 3 years, $45 million. Yeah, not a great showing. 32 minutes for Duncan Robinson, 2 points, did not register a single stat in anything else. He was 1 for 7 and 0 for 5 from deep, and he was a -7. Not a great start for Duncan Robinson and the Pistons. Really not a good start for the Pistons offense in general. I don't know if you saw the Pistons game, but they didn't score like the entire until the fourth quarter. They really weren't.
No, they erased, I believe, a 23-point deficit.
Oh, they had like,
and then it
points,
just
with 2 minutes left in the first half. I mean, they were barely scoring the basketball. So who's going to replace? We talked about on the over under preview for the East. Who's replacing the Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr. kind of like 3-point stuff that made them so good last year? It's like, well, Duncan Robinson's supposed to be one of those guys. Fontecchio, same thing. I'm not to go into the Heat, but we saw what he did. He gave us 13 points off the bench. Duncan Robinson really didn't do anything. I mean, he was just kind of still like a traffic cone out there and not giving you anything offensively. Not a great start as far as
I
the
just
headline.
hated the analysis around the signing, Mike. I never liked it. I thought there was too many people that basically were like, oh, he can just do what Tim Hardaway Jr. does. But he can't. He doesn't have that intensity. I don't think he has as good of shot making. Robinson, look, is a 3-point flame shooter. But at the same time, he's a stationary guy. His movement stuff that he showed prowess with his first few years in Miami, that's kind of gone by the wayside. He's just not that guy at this point in his career. He's really a pick and pop 3. That's kind of it. Go to the corner, shoot from there. And if he's not making that, then he's useless because he's a terrible defender, as we know.
Right.
He has okay size, but it's not this underrated defensive thing that we've seen with some other shooters where just because they're tall, lanky white guys, that they get this bad defense label that doesn't really exist. No, Duncan Robinson is a bad defender. It just is that. So if he's not going to at least hit some timely shots, then what's the point of him being out there? I thought he was overpaid from the beginning. I thought at this point he was near a minimum guy. I think his shooting was grossly overrated, and you saw what happened last night.
Oh, last night, 1 for 7, 0 for 5 from deep. If he's not hitting a single 3 and he's 0 for 5 from deep, they really need his 3-point shooting too. I mean, look at the rest of the roster. They were 28% from 3 last night. Beef Stew was 2 for 2. So that's keeping their 3-point percentage up a little bit. Like, they really need his production. I mean, again, Cade was 1 for 6 from deep last night. Asar Thompson, we know, is not the shooter. Neither is his brother. Like, they really need the shooting here. They need the outside shot to go, because Cade Cunningham, same thing, 23 points on 24 shots. Like, the efficiencies are down. So you really need Duncan Robinson's, 3-point prowess. And last night was a really rough start to his Pistons debut. I mean, that just wasn't good enough. And you're losing to the Chicago Bulls, who we talked about how grossly low their over-under was. And, that's just not a good start for the Pistons. That's what I'm a little bit more concerned about. The other teams that here, they got blown out. I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe just a rough night. But the Pistons, like, we need some offense. Like, where's the offense coming from? It needs to be coming from some of these guys that they picked up to kind of replace the Malik Beasleys of the world.
Yeah, and someone locked the Bulls over, so they're feeling okay about a game like that last night.
Sure.
Here's another new guy on a team that, not the best start, but not really his fault. Anfernee Simons with the Celtics.
Oh.
And you had a lot of reservations about the Celtics team, me less so. And sure, I'm a fan, but I just thought the talent, at least from the first 3 or 4 guys, would be enough to outweigh the concerns with this roster, which is not having your top 10 MVP caliber player in Jason Tatum and having a front court that is shaky at best. And yesterday, both those things were put to the test because the 76ers came into town hungry with just an unbelievable game from Tyrese Maxey, 40 points. We'll talk about VJ Edgecomb's performance later and EMBID'S stinker as well, but
disaster.
It felt like throughout this game that Boston was handling business. And Luka Garza went into concussion protocol, so the front court was in play there. But again, not really that big of a deal. It felt like they had enough talent. And then all of a sudden, in the fourth quarter, things got stagnant. And that's kind of been something that's been a staple of the Celtics the last 5 or 6 years. Late in games, the ball kind of slows down. The amazing swinging into the corners, that stops. And it's a lot of iso ball, a lot of early shot clock grenades. And none of it looks great. But yesterday, there was definitely part of that. But for me, it was just not getting Anfernee Simons the ball, who I thought was one of the most electric players in a green uniform. I thought he had a great game when he was allowed to do anything, it felt like they were freezing him out of the offense.
Yeah.
And that to me is just a massive mistake. Peyton Pritchard, as much as I love him, he just
Pritchard.
had the ball significantly way too much, as did Derek White, who just wasn't on his game. And Brown isn't really a creator the way the Celtics want him to. He was okay yesterday, but they really needed something more out of Simons, but he didn't really have the opportunity to do that. He was open at times, he was calling for it, and they just weren't really swinging him the rock. I need to see more from Anfernee Simons. If this Celtics team wants to hit their over-under, which is basically just being a slightly above 500 basketball team, that's all it is. Simons has to be more involved because I think they showed, if nothing else, they can compete with the teams around them in the Eastern Conference. Sure, it was the home game. Sure, Embiid had a stinker. But at the same time, Anfernee Simons is such a good offensive player, and for a team that people thought would need more offense because of everything subtracted from it, not just Tatum, but the absence of Holiday, of course, and Porzingis moving on, Horford just being a veteran on the team.
Yeah.
They lack cohesion. And yesterday that was so evident. I think it's a okay problem to have because I think it's an easy fix. Just give the guy the ball a little bit more and the offense will kind of not sputter at random points in the game. But you also need to do that. He needs to feel comfortable in this offense. They need to find a role for him because if not, they can't really afford coming out of the gate slow here. The East might stink, but at the same time, this team lacks depth, particularly in the front court, as I keep mentioning over and over again. You need these wings to get going early, and last night wasn't the best showing as far as seeing Simons integrate with this team.
I think Simons is going to have, I just think he's an up and down play. I think he's going to have some really, really nice games for Boston. And we're going to come out here being like, Anfernee Simons.
Yeah, whoa. I 100% agree with you. I just think they need to either A, let him do it, or B, just trust him a little bit more. Because I think it's easy to be up and down when you play for an unserious team with an unserious coach, as we'll get to later in the program. But on a real basketball team that's committed to winning, I think some of these guys can rise to the occasion. You at least have to let them prove it to you one way or the other. And last night, it felt like Simons was more like a Sam Hauser role than as a second best offensive player on this team, which I think he clearly is. I think even better than White, better than Pritchard. He's like clearly the number 2 guy. He's a walking bucket.
He is a walking bucket, which is why I think it's going to be a very up and down season, which is why I think the over-run is right where it's at. It's like we don't really know what we're going to get from Anfernee Simons. We could get like an 8 3-pointer made game. We could get a game where he's not really involved much. I think we could also get some clunker games too. So I think that it's all 3 of it we might get with the Anfernee Simons experience. Obviously, that's what we saw in Portland. It could very well carry over to Boston. Obviously, it's a much more serious team now than Portland. But it's the over-under is what it is. I mean, it's right in like the Mendoza line of like, are they going to be good? Are they not going to be good? We have no idea. I still like the personnel a little bit. Even without Tatum to like win games, but it's the Anfernee Simons thing is a total TBD right now. Like I don't even know how it's going to look. I mean, last night really wasn't an indicator because it was a lot of Pritchard, it was a lot of Derek White, it was a lot of guys that just have been here for a while. So I mean, that's kind of what to expect from opening night. So I couldn't really make much of it. I just think that Anfernee Simons, from what I've seen, is probably going to be a little hot or cold. I think there's going to be nights where he's really, really good, and we're talking about him in a different light than we're talking about right now. And I think there's gonna be nights where he's like really, really cold, and we're talking about him a little bit worse than we are right now. It's just kind of like we really don't know. I mean, the debut was is what it was. I thought there was not enough Jaylen Brown late in that game for Boston, especially when you just need a bucket. I still think he's one of the more reliable half court, get a bucket guys. But yeah, I mean, the issues for the Celtics are in the front court. I mean, Luka Garza, I know he got a concussion protocol. But the depth behind that wasn't really anything anyways. So it's like even more thin than
it was sporadic. Chris Boucher. It's Neemias Queta, who's actually pretty good, but he can't stop fouling. He has to be one of the most foul-prone players in the league. He just has no idea how to stay out of foul.
By the way, Big X the plug had some minutes last night.
They were, he tried, he hustled, but they were shaky as well. Mike, here's a team we know everything about. We don't need to know anything more about them. A team we're just already tired of. We have the same one here.
This is an easy one.
The Brooklyn Nets. 10 players for the Nets yesterday played at least 15 minutes. 13 played at least 7.
That doesn't make
Ben
sense.
Suraf started for some reason. Xaiver and Traore also played. There were other 2 rookies. So 3 rookies of the 13 guys that suited up for Brooklyn. Danny Wolf was a DNP.
Yeah, literally everybody played. Or besides our guy.
Yeah,
But
that was it. It just was baffling to me watching this game. 20 and a half was the line that I locked the under. Mike told me that it was just too low of line. Do you have any reservations now about
I'm
me
locking.
locking
Oh,
that line?
can I lock it now after one game, please?
Oh, you can't lock it now. No, no.
Yeah, I guess I can't. Again, I wanted to see one game. I was like,
If you could have a retroactive lock, that would be it.
that would be it. Yes, I've watched one Nets game, and I know for a fact they're not winning 21 games. It's not happening. This team absolutely sucks. By the way, Day'Ron Sharp had 14 of 6 on 6-7 shooting. So, and they lost by like 20. Lost by 19.
Yeah, I just want to say for you and some other people so stunned by this, I raised the point. You saw the roster. Like, we talked about the roster. We talked about all the guys.
Really bad.
I knew it would look this bad. And I think there's a fallacy with the Nets where, oh, they have scoring. Michael Porter Jr. has never seen a shot he doesn't like. Cam Thomas is, a ball stops here guy. But that's also the exact problem with this team. They don't actually have great all-around offensive players. They have guys that are solid scorers, but they can only score for themselves. They can only set themselves up. It's not a good offensive philosophy. And although I like some of what I saw yesterday, I thought Seraph was a decent table setter at times.
Yegor
His
Denon.
defense was absolutely atrocious. Yegor, same thing. These guys can't stop us out there.
No,
It's
really
awful. And someone's going to say, hey, the Hornets are a juggernaut on opening day. 6 straight opening day wins for the Charlotte Hornets. To that, I say, did you watch the game? Did you watch what happened? Because the Nets are an embarrassment to the NBA. I am so sick of them. It's not even funny. They have maybe 1 or 2 players that would play on actual serious basketball teams. We just talked about the Celtics and their lack of front court depth. Day'Ron Sharp's not getting minutes for them. He's just not. Nick Claxton probably is. That's it. Michael Porter Jr. was in the rotation last year for Denver. They were so sick of him, they sent him here. Michael Porter Jr. maybe would be like the 8th or 9th guy on some of these serious teams. But even him, like, he has name value, so I understand if you think he would play. He's a bad basketball player at this point. He just is.
By the way, we talked about how bad the Nets offense was. Their defense is probably going to be the worst in the league. Also, so 10 Hornets played last night, right? It was pretty normal, 10-man rotation. 9 of them scored in double figures, including our guy, the Moose. Moses Diabate was getting whatever he wanted whenever he wanted. That is inexcusable because I can guarantee you the Moose will not be going off for 72% shooting in 13-9 against most teams besides the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets are really just that putrid. I mean, we joked about their big 3 as far as spending wise goes. It's Terrence Mann, Michael Porter Jr., and Nick Claxton. That's like their big 3 as far as expensive guys. And obviously Cam Thomas. Cam Thomas, by the way, had 15 points on 13 free throws. So he got his 15, but nothing was falling for him last night. It was just like, I don't know how this team's going to win games. If I could lock something after watching one game, Brooklyn could be, a 14-win team. Genuinely, they could be a 14-win. I don't really know who they're like.
The Hornets started 2 rookies in Ryan Cockbrenner and Con Kneppel. And I know Cockbrenner spent plenty of time in college ball. But both of those guys looked like they would be the most veteran presence on the Nets. That was apparent from the tip, that those guys looked more comfortable in an NBA setting than pretty much anyone the Nets tried out. That includes MPJ, who's played plenty of meaningful basketball and has a ring to his name.
It's a good title, yeah.
It's embarrassing. It really is. And I feel bad because I thought last year, at the beginning of the season, this was a team that was super frisky. They were playing really hard. And it seems like the organization kind of pulled the plug on that. They moved off of Schroeder, who was honestly one of the better guys on that team, as did Cam Johnson in the offseason, along with some other guys as well. And last night, it was so obvious that it's AJ DeBanter or bust. But we've also seen in recent times that having such a putrid team and having by far the worst record in the NBA guarantees you nothing.
Nothing.
So they're kind of trotting out this product with no real backup plan because it's not like they really have a great young prospect. I mean, maybe Yegor or Ben turns into that. There's always a chance that one of those guys pops. But right now, at this point, it kind of looks like a wasteland up and down the roster.
There's no guarantee. You mentioned that they could be the worst team in basketball. There's no guarantee they even get a top 4 pick. Remember, with the way the lottery is, I believe the last 3 years, the worst team in basketball actually hasn't even gotten, a top 3 pick. I believe that the Pistons back-to-back years were the worst team in basketball. They picked 5 back-to-back years. I believe they dropped to 5. So they weren't even able to keep a top 4 pick. I believe last year, the team with the worst record was the Jazz, and the Jazz picked 4? Ace Bailey, or 5, I believe it was. Yeah, 4 was Charlotte with Concanable. So they didn't even pick in the top 4 either. Like, you're not guaranteed a top 4 pick if you're the worst team in basketball, which is really a problem for the Nets because they really need like a guaranteed top 3 lock. I mean, they got Darren Peterson there at Kansas who can just fill it up. He'll score a lot this year in college. Cam Boozer had 33 points on his exhibition game for Argentina.
And even that, though, some of these top picks that we hype up that look good at this point in the season, you never really know.
You don't know.
Some guys fall off a cliff. I think of even a guy like Nick Smith Jr., number 1 player rate in his class. He's not even playing in the NBA right now. He's not getting NBA minutes. And that was only 3 years ago, 3 years ago. Yeah. So life comes at you fast. Some of these guys just don't pan out. So you're tanking for real question marks. There's some obvious guys like Wembanyama and Flag.
Right. They need,
it doesn't take a lot of tape to watch. But Peterson, Boozer, DeBanza, one of those guys could suck. We don't really know.
100%. They need some luck to go their way. They need to just kind of fall into a top 3 slot and then hope that their pick pops, essentially, because there really is no young talent on this team. I mean, I know they had 5 first-round picks last year. They were like, we want more first-round. We're not going to keep going into the first round. They were like, we'll take all the first-round rookies this year. And they really didn't address anything with all the 5 of those picks. I mean, they got Drake Powell. I mean, all these guys played last night besides Danny Wolf. Drake Powell came in for 7 minutes. They had Yegor Demon. They had Ben Seraph. All these guys. It's just like, what are we doing here with some of these picks? I really didn't understand the entire philosophy of their draft last year. It was a very, very weird first-round draft. For a team that had 5 firsts, they kept trading back up into the first round. Like, we want more rookies this year. We're going to build a young nucleus. And I don't really know if any of these guys, again, it's only 1 game, so we're not going to sound the alarms, but I wasn't really high on any 5 of these guys besides Danny Wolf. I was like, hey, Danny Wolf's kind of fun. But I don't know if any of them have all-star potential. Really, I don't really see any saving.
No, and at best they're all projects, and it's going to take a few years. And I guess you could say, well, Brooklyn has the time, but it feels like they've been in this perpetual rebuild for 15 years now, and you had the Kevin Durant Big 3 experiment for a brief period of time, but that was never really that serious. So what's going on with this franchise? Are we ever going to take a step up or two? There's been glimpses here and there. They've tried pretty much everything. Yeah. They've tried the aging roster thing. They've tried the buying the Big 3 thing. They've tried the youth movement. They've tried kind of combining the two. Nothing's really worked. It's kind of time for Sean Marks to go. That's kind of where we're at with Brooklyn. It's been time, and there's kind of not much else to say. It's just that bad. I keep using the word embarrassing. It's not just embarrassing. It's kind of sad. It really is. Yeah. Because of the 30 NBA franchises, Brooklyn to me is in by far the worst shape. By far.
Yeah, I think at least 29 other teams kind of know what they're doing a little bit. They have a semblance of an idea. I don't really know why I mentioned.
They at least have a parachute plan if the thing they're trying to do doesn't really work. I think it's Sacramento. Sacramento can at least sell some guys at some point and try to acquire more capital.
Sure,
but they have a decent player to get good picks out of in DeMontis Sabonis.
The Nets don't even have
top
those guys.
35, 40 player in the league. The Nets don't have a top 100 player in the league.
Unless you believe,
I don't even know if they have a top 125 player in the league. No, I don't consider Claxton.
No. I wouldn't either. But I mean, unless you think that you can get something from Nick Claxton, why is he still on this roster? Isn't there a team that could use front court depth?
He kind of makes too much money. I think that's the problem. He makes a little bit too much for what he provides.
MPJ makes too much money. No one wanted that contract. That's why we were shocked that Denver was able to get off of him, because he makes too much money. So they have these players that really aren't that valuable because of the contracts they're on. Maybe these guys would help some contending team, but no contending team wants to take on these contracts. So they really are in a lose-lose situation right now. I feel bad for them. Actually, I mean, it's really sad. It's sad to watch. I'm kind of hoping that something goes their way in a draft luck lottery. We talk about these teams that just have these lottery luck. The Mavs shoot from 13-1 or whatever it is, 12-1. I'm hoping that one of these teams that just has no life, they look like a lifeless team right now. They get some kind of gift from the sky that just comes down and just blesses this franchise, because it looks that bad. I mean, it literally looks that bad. After one game, it looks that bad. I can't believe I'm saying. Well, actually, I can't believe I'm saying that. The roster is that bad. So Brooklyn's in a disaster situation.
Let's go some rapid fire here. Just some quick stuff. Team you already feel better about?
I think it's got to be the Spurs. I mean, I think I was teetering there. I had their under because I was just kind of like, I don't know. I have to see Wemby play a full slate of games first. But the way they kind of just dispatched of my Mavs, who I locked their over on, I have to feel more comfortable about the Spurs. And I think we both have teams on here that we were like, we're under on them because we don't really know. I think the Spurs, they just made the Mavericks look very, very small. And the Mavericks are like a big team, as we mentioned. They are a big team, and they couldn't do anything in the paint when Wemby's in the game. Like literally, I texted my buddy last night. I was like, when the Mavericks are trying to go inside, which is where you would think they'd have some success, they literally can't do it. When Wemby's in the game, there is no entering the paint because there's no success rate when you go in there. Like they have the Mavs have the size to kind of force stuff into the interior.
The Mavs looked so slow in comparison, didn't they? I thought that was apparent. Whether it was their rotations on defense, whether it was transition, whether it was just setting up the offense, I just thought the Spurs were running laps around them.
They were running. And by the way, in the second half of the Mavs game, you started to see Anthony Davis kind of fall in love with the three ball again. He was just like, I'm not going back in the paint right now. I can't. How can you right now with the way the Wemby's kind of dispatching of every shot and altering every shot? And the Spurs were just able to. And again, the spacing is not great in Dallas. We kind of knew that. Same issues with Houston with the spacing. If you're going to play a bunch of big guys, then you kind of have to expect that to happen. But the Spurs just kind of took them to the woodshed. They were running them up and down the floor, which we mentioned. If you're a big team full of like 7-footers, you don't really want to run up and down the floor like that. You want to play a little bit slower. And the Spurs just ran them out of their own gym. And that was really impressive. So I already feel much better about the Spurs. You mentioned you got to at least throw them in that convo. I had them as the 8 seed, but I didn't have them in the playoffs. So the way I had the actual playoff seedings going, I had them losing to Dallas in the 7-8 play-in game and then losing to Golden State in the 8-9 play-in game. So I had the Warriors having the 8 seed, but I was on San Antonio's under because I just didn't really know. I was like, how's this 3-guard system going to work? Fox and Wemby only played 6 games together. Is Wemby going to play the threshold? Is he going to meet the threshold of games? Like, he grew 2 more inches. That's, again, injury red flags that popped up. But last night was just like dispatching of any red flags you had about the Spurs. That was really, really, just after one game, I feel better about them more than anybody for sure. Because if I had to take one back, I would have had Grizzlies under, Spurs over, just off of one game watching it. Because I was like, okay, the Spurs, if this team is going to be healthy all year, which is a big if, they're probably a playoff team.
For me, it was Houston, who lost a 1-point game to the champs in double overtime without a real guard, and they shot 28% from deep. If Houston can get this production out of Sengun the entire season, it doesn't really matter if they have a point guard, as weird as that sounds. They can just cobble up enough stuff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they have plenty of pieces to kind of go out and get a guy, whether that's a rental, whether that's a long-term solution. I'd lean the latter because this team's needed one for so long. Tari Eason wasn't really a massive factor in this game, which I thought was a bit strange. He was a bit of like to the side. I felt like they needed more of him late. It seemed like Ime Udoka didn't really trust them in this game for whatever reason. So if they're already kind of shaking their head at Eason, maybe move him, go get a guard of some sort. Again, I don't really have a name for you. It's just kind of anyone that can be like a decent table setter, whether that's one of the Jones brothers, whether that's Dennis Schroeder, who makes maybe a little bit too much money, but I think would be good in this situation, would have the ball a lot, would be engaged, would be on a winning team. We talked about like the Dennis Schroeder situations. I think this weirdly would be a good one. They could use his offense as well. His defense is good as far as like being a pest goes, but he gets blown by too easily. So Ahmed Thompson could easily kind of, hide that deficiency. I just really liked what I saw from Houston. I think the sky's really the limit for them. They just need to make a few tweaks and they can easily be back in that title conversation, which I didn't think they would be in. I thought they were being slightly overrated. I know the Van Vliet injury is a massive deal, but even with him, I'd have still plenty of these same concerns. So if you just get a player, 80% of Van Vliet or even better, this team will be really solid. I think they showed a lot to me. It
is weird to say that it's not like a huge issue that they don't have a point guard, because it is a big issue, but I feel like it's only a big issue because we watched them play OKC last night. Like, I don't think it's actually that big of an issue against
I completely agree. It's a big issue from a title standpoint, but not a regular season win standpoint.
Right, but OKC made it look like a huge issue because, for example, Reed Shepherd looked a little out of place in that game. He looked like he was, for moments, it was like, okay, Kason Wallace is hounding him. Reed Shepherd doesn't really know who to go to the ball with. Like right now, he doesn't really know where to go with the ball, who to give it up to. Like it looked a little. Amin Thompson forgot.
Yeah, and some of that wasn't his fault. It felt like there's too many times where Houston was totally stationary, and Reed's like, "Hey, can anyone move?" I think of that play late to KD that he was trying to make like a 5-foot entry pass away from him.
And Dort
And
was
he's just
there,
standing there. It was very bizarre. And
Yeah,
Dort's able to just poke that away.
but I think that's more OKC is just that suffocating. Like, I don't think they're going to run into that problem every night. On a nightly basis, you're not going to face OKC. So I think that them not having a point guard, it's an issue, but it was emasculated because
Reed will look better as the season goes along.
Of course. He looked a little out of place in that game because everyone in that game was like 6'7" plus. But I think in most nights when you go up against other teams that aren't Oklahoma City, you'll be able to kind of mask that issue of not having a point guard, and they'll be able to get more comfortable with it. The shooting is interesting for me because they were 28% from three. Amen Thompson's shot is still flat, really. Like there's still some stuff where I'm like, okay, they're gonna need some shot production from our guy Jabari, obviously. Sengun, great first game. KD, same thing. Like those guys are gonna have to make some shots from the perimeter to kind of keep this half court offense afloat as far as shooting the basketball. Because 28% from three, again, not great. They're gonna have to increase that number if they're gonna beat like these awesome teams. But they were right there with Oklahoma City, so they should feel very good about it, even with no point guard, which is an issue. We're not saying that not having a point guard is like nothing. It's like, oh, we can just play without a point guard. Like against some teams, you probably won't be able to, and it'll be kind of exposed to you. So yeah, I love the FIBA Dennis trade deadline possible move because they just need a guy to just kind of give him like 17 minutes off the bench, or 18, 19, 20 minutes. Because I think Amen Thompson can run the offense. He kind of forgot he had teammates in that last minute of the game in regulation. But I just think it was a lot of stationary offense for Houston in the half court, which is you could expect that with a team that doesn't have a point guard. And you can also expect that against a team that's playing Oklahoma City in their gym on ring night. That was all issues that we thought would happen. And yet they lost by 1 point in double overtime. And Amen Thompson got injured in the first overtime. KD fouled out in the second overtime. Steven Adams, our guy, was all over the board. Like it was a lot of things that I liked about Houston on Tuesday night. And again, the half court spacing is certainly an issue. I was fascinated to see how it would look. But I think against Oklahoma City, that was pretty much as good a moral loss as you could have had, right? 1 point loss on the road on ring night in double overtime. That's pretty good. You got to just figure out how to, make outside shots at a more consistent rate. And obviously you gotta find a
Kevin Durant has to be more involved. Like there's plenty that they left on the table. I think they should be really encouraged. And sure, J-Dub was out, but even so, you can only play who's in front of you.
Right, but they had to go against like Kason Wallace, Lou Dort, and Caruso. Those guys are just pests, man. Like there was a lot of turnovers in that game, and you could see why. Because the Rockets don't have a point guard, so they were turning the ball over, and then the Thunder can just turn you over whenever they want. That's like the Thunder can hit you with a 16-0 run, not based on like their offense. It's just like they'll just take the ball away from you and just run. Like they'll just get
that's insane.
Because they'll just get steals. I mean, you mentioned SGA steals in our preview episode, but they'll just turn you over, and that's kind of how they get back in games. I mean, they were down 12 last night, and then they started turning Houston over. So it was just like Houston left a lot of stuff on the plate, on the tape. Like there's more to Houston than what we saw on Tuesday night, which is good reason for Houston. So I think it's a good one. Like we feel better about them than we did 48 hours ago.
Quickly, more concerning, Flag's debut or more encouraging from VJ Edgecombe's debut?
I think it's definitely VJ Edgecombe here. I mean, this was really, really impressive. We were not down on VJ Edgecombe when we were doing our rookie of the year. We were down on the Sixers. That was my big issue was the path for VJ, because I love VJ Edgecombe as a prospect. I think I had him as a top 3 player in the class. Like I really liked him. I saw a lot of Oladipo at Baylor. So I was like, he can translate to the league. Like he can score at all 3 levels. That was really like the blow by stuff. Like his first step. You talk about Jaden Ivey's first step a couple years when he entered the league. I think there's similar stuff with VJ Edgecombe. Like he can get to the basket because of how explosive he is. I thought he was just really impressive. Again, the flag stuff, I'm not really worried about it. It was a lot on his plate as a point guard opening night against the Spurs, who looked like a really good defensive team. And again, you got Stephon Castle that's kind of hounding him. Like I'm not really worried about Flag at all. And by the way, these number 1 overall picks tend to have these kind of occasional clunker debuts. Not that Flags was like a disaster or anything, but I think Wemby last year had, or not last year, 2 years ago, I believe, had like a rough debut and was just fine. I'm thinking about other prospects too have had like bad opening night games. It's not really indicative of like the rest of the season. It's just kind of, it's NBA speed. You're going up against a good team, and it's ESPN. Like I believe the Wemby opening night game was also against the Luka Doncic and the Mavericks, where we saw Wemby have like a nice stretch of play, but it was like more Luka and the Mavs are already here. They've arrived. It's just like we're going to showcase Wemby, but he didn't really do much that opening night game, if I remember correctly. Flag didn't do much in the opening night game, but I don't really think it was like that big of a deal. I think that was just more the Wemby show, and it was just like, oh, Flag's on the court with this alien terrestrial, figure. It's like, okay, maybe he looks a little bit like it was probably going to be 2 generational number 1 overall picks and we saw Wemby, who's now in year 3 or 4, and we saw Flag, it's his first game in the NBA. So I'm not going to overreact to that. I thought VJ Edgecombe, though, looked like a cool, calm, and collected pro for the Sixers. 34 points in his rookie. I believe it's the third highest score by a rookie in their debut in NBA history. So he was really, really impressive. 74 points from the 76ers backcourt. That's going to win you most games when Embiid doesn't score 4 points on 1 for 9. That's good. That'll play. So again, Paul George in street clothes, VJ Edgecombe. There is a path to Rookie of the Year. It includes the Sixers winning games, which is kind of a hit or miss. But if him and Maxey are playing like this, they have a shot.
Yeah, we got to see what it looks like when PG and McCain comes back, and if Embiid shows a pulse here, because then the path gets significantly more difficult.
Yeah, a little murky.
The only thing I want to say, detracting Flag here, is a lot of the concerns we talked about that we didn't put a ton of weight into did come to fruition in the first game.
Sure.
He didn't look super comfortable with the ball all the time. That was an issue. He goes between being too passive and then hunting his shot too much. It's almost like someone tells him, like, hey, man, you got to start scoring, and then he kind of locks into that gear, and then he has blinders on, and he just focuses on trying to get a shot up, not necessarily getting a quality shot up. So the Flag stuff's a work in progress, but at the same time, he's 18 years old, so it's going to take a little time.
By the way,
I didn't expect him to be great immediately, and I told you that during the preview episode. I thought it would at least take a few weeks, a few months for him to kind of get going and adjust to the NBA level.
By the way, real quick, there's games. I think it was last year when Duke. It was one of their only 3 losses all year. They came to Clemson. I think it was the flu game for Cooper Flag. It was like, is he going to play or not? He had like 4 points at halftime on like 1 of 4. Like, he wasn't really shooting the ball. And then second half, he had like 20 points, and he came alive. So he has these stretches where he's aggressive, not aggressive. I think the thing with Flag though is like he could score like 12 points, but be really productive in everything else. Like, there was a game against North Carolina last year where he was doing everything on the stat sheet, not necessarily scoring the basketball at 25, whatever it was, but he was doing everything else. He was setting up teammates. He was rebounding. He was blocking shots. Like, he was doing everything else that impacted winning, and he wasn't necessarily scoring like I think he only had like 14, 15 in that game, but he was still like the best player on the floor. So I think that's a different thing. We have to look at him a little bit like, I hate to compare him to this guy, but like pre-mental, pre-Ben Simmons, before he like messed up with his mental. Like when Ben Simmons out of the league, he was like this great player, but he could score like 9 points and be like a really productive player. I think that Flag obviously much more scoring output than Ben Simmons, so it's not like a black and white comparison, but like he can impact winning in a different way than just he needs to score 20 and 10. And it's not necessarily what he needs to do to be a.
His offensive game kind of reminds me of like a more physical Gordon Hayward. Like, I feel like they kind of do a lot of the same stuff where his offensive bag, he can get to that mid-range. If the shot's on, it's on. Hayward was a better shooter, obviously, but they have a lot of the same repertoire within the arc that I think could go well for Flag. It just has to progress. And obviously my answer is VJ. I know I didn't expressly say that, but VJ was out of control.
Yeah.
The athleticism was so apparent. He just looked more athletic than everyone else on the floor. It was super effortless. I think teams might respect the shot a little bit less. I thought Boston was over pursuing that a little bit, and I thought Boston's defensive coverage all night was terrible. So I wouldn't necessarily expect this every game from VJ. It's one thing to kind of go to the rim constantly and have your way against the team without a true rim protector. His defensive assignments looked a little bit muddled. Now, if he faced a team with, the Ducks more in a row with a better 5, which isn't hard to have a better 5 than Neemias Queta / Luka Garza. So I just want to see it maybe against a better team more equipped to stop him. And then it's just like any other sport. When the tape goes out on you, how do you adjust to that? And some NBA guys adjust to it really well, others don't. So, Brandon Jennings had an insane debut, and then his career kind of sputtered out after that.
Michael Carter-Williams had an insane debut.
Yeah, there's a ton of guys that looked really good their first either game or first few weeks in the league that kind of fell off a cliff. So I don't want to talk about it too much, but I liked what I saw.
He was phenomenal.
Regardless.
He was phenomenal.
Yeah. In perfect segue, is Embiid done as top guy?
Yeah, probably. That was really alarming. Here's why I say this. It's not because the talent isn't there anymore, whatever it is. He doesn't like roll to the rim anymore. On pick and rolls, he's just like a pick and pop guy now. I almost feel like he's like scared of hitting the floor a million times a game. He's like, I need to preserve my body for the playoffs. I'm not gonna crash into 3 guys in the paint and draw a foul and get to the free throw line like I usually do. I don't know if it's because of a minutes restriction last night, but he was very passive, let me kind of like fade on these pick and rolls. Let me just kind of like sag off and I'll take this jumper that was way off from like 20 feet. It was just like, it was really honestly a disgusting watch. I thank God the Sixers backcourt was like really exciting last night because the Embiid stuff. What a demoralizing watch last night that was. Again, he was 1 for 9, had 4 points. It's just not in 21 minutes, by the way. So he had a minute restriction of 21 minutes. He did not play, I think, at all in the fourth quarter. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think he played in that fourth quarter at all. Like no minutes.
No, he looked disengaged throughout. It just looked like he didn't want to be there. And whether that's health again, whether that's personality again, it's kind of hard to distinguish, but it doesn't really matter. It just looks so disheartening. And again, it's only one game, but we've been trending in this direction for a little while now.
This was bad, though.
And I've been in this camp and I've been screaming from the rooftops. I remember last year I did my top 100. I left him out of the top 10, I believe, and that got a lot of heat from some of the coworkers of mine. And I was like, look, the guy's not reliable. He doesn't look engaged in big moments. What do you want me to do? And sure enough, it seems like that's been a great decision ever since. And now, to be honest, Mike, I wouldn't have him in my top like 50 to 100. It's just not worth the hassle. It's not worth dealing with him. It's not worth paying him the contract. Even as like a lottery ticket, a high-end lottery ticket, you know what's going to happen if he has any sort of use. Unless you bubble wrap him until literally like the NBA Finals, it's not really worth dealing with him on your roster unless he's making like no money, which isn't really realistic at this point. So,
but why is he now just like a pick and pop stationary guy? Like, why is he like not even?
I don't think he trusts his movement. I really don't. We talked about Wemby's incredible movement earlier. I think Embiid's the complete opposite. And I think, again, it's been trending in this way for a little while now, where he's been less and less confident. He's been this finesse guy for, it seems like 3.5 years now, where after the MVP campaign, it's been all around the perimeter. You would not really think he's a center. He's foul baiting when he's around the post when he is doing that. So it's just disheartening because even though I'm not the biggest Embiid guy, I thought he had a great run. I really did. I thought his MVP, even though maybe it wasn't warranted, it felt right. It felt right that he had an MVP because he was such a dominant force down low. Yeah. And now it's kind of over. And to be honest, I'm done with it. I've been done with it. And now I'm just extra done with it. Like, I think they were dumb for giving him the extension. I think that looks worse and worse with every passing day. It felt like they were kind of pushed in a locker, even though the organization maybe was a little weary of doing it. The fans would have revolted if they didn't. And that just goes to show that fans shouldn't have say over the organization. Let them be upset for a little while.
Sure.
Let them, post nasty things on social media and come to games with funny t-shirts. Let them get over it, because in the end, if you know something's going to happen, like you know Embiid's going to break down, it's only a matter of time, then don't play their game. Play your own game. Stick to your guns. Yeah,
it's really just disheartening because the Maxey we saw last night, albeit one game, was kind of the Maxey we saw in that Knicks series in 2024, that first round. Remember where he was kind of just like, he was like the only light in that Sixers playoff run that only lasted 6 games. And Embiid very similarly looked like that guy in that Knicks series where he was kind of just, hovering on the perimeter, not really wanting to, after that game 1 where he took that big fall, not really wanting to, assert himself in the paint, in the low painted area. He was kind of just like this guy floating around the top of the key, not really doing much. Like, he's just kind of the guy that just takes up space right now. And that's really like, it's unfortunate because Maxey's playing really good basketball, at least last night in that series I'm talking about.
Yeah, he's an all-star caliber guard.
100%. So it's like
he has to deal with this big oaf.
And if he's not a top guy anymore, then what are we really doing here? Like, if Maxey's ascending, which of course is the natural progression of a guy who's going to be an all-star, and it is an all-star, then Embiid, like, if he's just a semblance of himself, which last night he certainly didn't look like any semblance of himself. If this is just who he is now, then yeah, obviously he's done as a
Mike, I want to give you a bold prediction. If this is an injury and isn't like an effort thing, if this is truly another injury, lingering thing, whatever,
it's night 1.
An injury buyout's coming. I'm just telling you right now, an injury buyout's coming. They might keep him the rest of the year, that's fine. But within the next 12 months, if he looks even 80% of what he did last night, and that's derogatory when I say that. That's really a bad thing. If he looks 80% of what he did last night, an injury buyout's coming. They can't afford him around. It just hurts the team. When he's on the floor, he kind of still needs touches because he's Joel Embiid.
Of course.
So they'd just be better taking his, 20 touches, 30 touches away, giving that to literally anyone else on this team.
Yeah, but if it's not an effort thing and it is an injury, it's night 1 of the NBA season and it's already an injury thing. I'm totally over it. I can't.
Well, that's kind of been my thing the whole time, and I've kind of felt like an ass, and I've kind of been vindicated the whole time when I've said I can't rank him that high. I can't trust him. Because he's just constantly injured. He's the human splint.
Well, what's worse is if it's an injury thing and he's already injured on night one, or if it's an effort thing and he's like literally just.
It's worse if it's an effort thing because the injury thing's coming and we know that anyway because it's just inevitable. But if it's also effort on top of it, then he doesn't even really deserve a place in the league.
Either way,
at that point, what is he?
Yeah, I'm panicking because
he was awful defensively. We haven't even mentioned that. He was terrible defensively, and if he's supposed to be this offensive focal point that is just kind of a black hole. For lack of a better term, just he's absorbing these touches and doing nothing productive with them, then forget it.
Yeah,
we'll round up here, Mike. More negativity to round up our segment. Any Clippers or Hawks panic at all? Last night, both teams got crushed.
Yeah.
The Clippers go to Utah. They just get ran out of the building. It was an immediate boat race. It was embarrassing for them. The Hawks, a bit more of a competitive game. This was close till the end of the third-ish, around that point.
Yeah.
And then Toronto just really pulled away. Any panic with those squads?
No panic. Usually for me, I'm not panicking when the team gets blown out on opening night. I think the bad teams are the ones that kind of like have like a semblance of life in the first couple of games, and then they're like, oh wait, this team's really bad. So I think it was just a bad game for the Clippers. I think they just kind of sleptwalk into Utah, which happens sometimes. Really rough to happen on opening night. But some of these older veteran teams, I saw it last year with the Warriors. I believe the Warriors lost twice in Salt Lake last year. And sometimes it just happens. These old teams, they just kind of sleepwalk into these cities. And they're just like, it's the Jazz. They're not going to be any good. And it's like these young, fruitful teams. And they kind of just sneak up on you. And that game was over in the first quarter, by the way. I believe Utah was up 43-19 after one quarter. It was really bad. So no doubt about it. The Clippers looked pathetic. And I believe we were both on their under. So it's not like, I mean, it would be more of a panic if I was actually into the Clippers, like as a serious title.
No, I felt great. I mean, no panic here.
No panic there, right? Because we don't. I don't think we view them as title threats. I think they're a playoff team for sure, but I don't think they're a title threat team. The Hawks, I'm not gonna panic. That was the only game I really didn't watch because it was blacked out. But I did catch a little bit of the highlights. I'm not really worried about the Hawks yet. Again, Toronto, whatever. I don't know what to make of that game really on opening night. It's just the Hawks. Honestly, I'm not to divert you on this one because I think you probably watched more of the Hawks game than I did. Was it just their offense is a little bit behind, or
no? It's the same thing it always is. It's bad transition defense.
Okay,
and by bad I mean just horrific. The offense was fine for most of the game. I just thought the defense. It was every break. Toronto was doing whatever they wanted. Toronto was playing with a pace that Atlanta just was not into, and it's a little bit concerning for me because this has been a thing that teams have done to Atlanta in the last few years. You would think because Atlanta's so young, they like to run. They really don't. I don't know, again, if that's an effort thing, if that's just a pace they like to play at. It's kind of tough to tell with them. But regardless, it's concerning nonetheless because, again, it's been such a prevalent problem the last few years with this team, and he's kind of stopped their progression. I wouldn't say I'm panicked about them because it's so early with such a new-ish team. Jalen Johnson comes back. Porzingis actually looks pretty good. He kind of looked like normal Porzingis yesterday. Nikhil Alexander-Walker's first game in Atlanta as well. So there's new pieces there that need to kind of get accustomed to the city, get accustomed to the team, if you will. So nothing there. The Clippers, maybe if you're into the Clippers, maybe you'd be panicked because I think the old age with them kind of showed up again, and that's what I was honing in on Overshadowed pod, where I was like, hey, this team's way older than you think, and they need some youth on this squad because if Kawhi is not an MVP caliber player, this team looks a lot worse. And I understand the argument that James Harden is such a good regular season player and he can just kind of will you to at least like 45 wins. That's just kind of the James Harden experience.
It is the experience.
But at one point, he's also going to see the cliff coming and he's going to regress a little bit. That was kind of my argument. It's only one game, but it's something you have to look into for sure.
Yeah, the Hawks, there's too much newness on this team. Too many new guys. I'm not I like the roster too much. I'm not going to panic on them because, Luke Kennard, first game as a Hawk. Nikhil Alexander-Walker, first game as a Hawk. Porzingis, first game as a Hawk. Jalen Johnson back healthy now. So I'm not going to panic on the Hawks. And also, I'm not really a big Toronto guy. So some of these opening night games, I'm not going to make too much of. The Jazz still, I don't think are any good. They had a nice opening night game. They're not that good. So there's some of these that I'm not going to panic on either one of those teams, if I'm being honest.
You didn't like Bryce Sensabaugh's efficient 20-plus point outing? No?
He's a nice player.
Ice Bryce? Come on.
And look, the Jazz, what are the
Walker
Jazz?
Walker Kessler hitting threes. Did you see that? 2 for 2 from beyond the arc.
He was phenomenal. If you want me to really give you a West team, I'm panicked about it. Well, not panicked. A West team I really hate is the Sacramento Kings. The Jazz are going to be 15th in the Western Conference. They're going to be joined by the Sacramento Kings, who are also maybe just as bad.
Real quick, Mike, if Kessler plays like this all season, He's going to fetch a premium. They've been kind of holding out
It's gonna be a haul.
where they kind of want more for him, but they've been kind of weird playing him. It's this weird situation in Utah with Kessler, but maybe holding out was the right call by Danny Ainge because if he, again, looks like he did last night, I think one of these teams that really needs a big is going to fork over at least a first or two for his services because he's such a good defender and the offense seems to be coming a long way. So shout out to our guy Walker Kessler. We're going to transition to the second part of this pod, though. Real quick, we're only going to spend a few minutes on this because there's not really a lot of information, just initial thoughts on it. The NBA gambling probe that happened today.
Ooh.
So both Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier arrested for gambling. We don't really know a lot of the information surrounding it. It seems like Billups was arrested for running an illegal gambling ring centered on poker with mafia ties. So whatever that means.
It doesn't sound good.
You can take that for whatever you will. It seems like it's straight out of The Sopranos or something very strange. And then the FBI's press conference that they did, they also announced that 4 teams, the Hornets, the Lakers, the Raptors, and the Blazers being the really interesting one there, considering that Billups obviously coached the Blazers.
Yeah.
They saw insider info being bet on those games. So there was like an abnormal amount of movement on some of the games that those teams were involved in based off of knowing information that wasn't privy to the public. So ingesting all that, right? So we don't really know if Billups was doing this with like NBA players or if this was totally separate, if he just happened to A, be the coach of the Blazers, and then B, running a poker ring connected to the Mafia, where the Mafia poker ring had really nothing to do with his NBA coaching duties. Maybe there was some stuff being leaked out there. We don't really know any of the information. Rozier, we figured that it was similar to Jonte Porter last year, where it had to do some prop bet stuff. But we really don't know. The information is just coming out rapidly. But from what we do know at this point, just the bits of information available, what do you make of all this?
Well, okay. So first of all, I'm just going to apologize real quick if I get anything wrong here because this is all alleged stuff. We don't really know for sure. But from what Mike Greenberg said this morning is, I mean, Chauncey Billups obviously wasn't betting on the games, but apparently he was. Again, this is all alleged. He was maybe giving stuff out to his other guys who are betting and maybe fidgeting with the minutes here. Because obviously a coach, we know they can kind of dictate how these props go. If they just play a guy a little bit less, play a guy a little bit more. These under props.
Yeah, if you only played Khalil Ware like 14 minutes yesterday when maybe one of the gurus had his 10 plus over, maybe you could do stuff like that.
Yes, though theoretically Chauncey Billups could do that. He could play like a guy who's supposed to do really well and play him only 12, 13 minutes. He could theoretically do that. And then he would be handing out these props to other people. And this is where it really gets tricky because if you're a coach of the NBA team, you got to be coaching the game as if you're trying to win the game, not thinking about the prop betting and like taking guys out of the lineup that might be, conducive to the betting. Like that would be really where it would get murky waters. And obviously you see here, he's arrested for that, but he's also arrested for illegal poker operation tied with the Mafia. That's like, again, straight out of I don't even know what to make of that. It doesn't sound good. The Rozier thing, again, it seems similar to the Jonte Porter one where it was like he's betting against his own props, something like that, where he's just like, hey guys, take my under tonight. It was very strange stuff. This has been like a year and a half with Rozier now. The Malik Beasley one's still going on. The Hornets and Lakers, what do we make about that? I mean, that one was, I guess maybe it was because Terry Rozier was on the Hornets a couple years ago, and was that maybe what it is?
No, there was something about a former NBA player who I believe was Damon Jones. He somehow, I believe he was an assistant coach. Again, it's kind of tough to keep up with all this information. Right. He somehow knew LeBron wasn't playing that night, so that was part of it. That was one little like nugget. I don't know if it was more than that. To me, I hear that. I don't really care that much about it as far as integrity goes. Like LeBron, if he's not going to play, the public will find out eventually.
They'll find out. Right?
If you get the line early, it's one thing, but what are you going to do with that? That's always going to happen. He just got caught. Like it's very obvious that that's always going to be an issue unless they bug the players' phones. Like they're not going to really be able to keep that under wraps. So to me, that doesn't matter as much. But if you're promoting gambling as much as you are, if you're the NBA in particular, we talked about this prior with like the NFL, other sports, but the NBA, it's every ad on every game. Literally, the service that some of these games are on are the FanDuel networks. Instead of, it used to be Bally, and then before that it was like Fox, but right now it's FanDuel. Does this need to stop, or is this just one of these things where they have to be more responsible? to me, it goes hand in hand. I don't think, or I'll say this, I think you can promote something and also not condone excessive use of it.
Of course.
For example, you could promote Amazon and not promote being a shopaholic. There are people out there that literally buy like way too much stuff, that have no self-control, that are getting Amazon packages every day. So why is that inherently different than gambling? And obviously, gambling is more addictive, particularly sports gambling. Obviously, it's more addictive. It's a vice. Sure, I get all that. But it is weird to me that every ad is gambling. Every single ad. All you're doing is talking about gambling. And if you're a league that has had really gambling problems way before the recent gambling boom, I think of Connie Hawkins. I don't even know if you know this story. But Connie Hawkins was an incredible black basketball player. There was some alleged gambling issue. I believe he was at like Iowa or something, some college, where when he was in high school in New York, that he was kind of buddies with some bookie, and then that came out, and he was basically blackballed from the NBA. He was only able to play later in his career for like the Phoenix Suns. It really derailed him. He was supposed to be like this pillar NBA figure, and he just was kind of blackballed from the league. You fast forward a lot to Michael Jordan's alleged stuff in the 90s. You fast forward past that to Tim Donaghy. There's been a lot of gambling issues in the NFL, the NBA, more so than other sports. So to have this happen again after the Jonte Porter stuff, a coach of your league and then a player, and who knows what else is coming out. There might be more arrests. We don't really know where this
Malik Beasley
going.
not arrested as of right now. So he's safe right now.
Shout out my guy Malik Beasley. But it just feels like this is going down a bad path. It's
a bad place for the league right now. If to answer your question, do they need to end the gambling partnership? I mean, not showed every 5 seconds. I mean, literally, they're going to commercial breaks and they're like shoving FanDuel sports props in our face. And by the way, today on ESPN Get Up, when I was watching Greenberg and them, they literally had the ESPN bet on the little ticker there, and then as they talk about the subject, they covered it up. Like they literally put a black bar over where it says ESPN bet in the bottom right. So like, it's very weird. If you're gonna shove it on our face, if you're gonna shove gambling in our face, and then when there are repercussions, of course it goes hand in hand. There's of course gambling responsibly, and then obviously you can't have your own coaches betting on games. You can't have your own players betting on games. That's obviously number one. But again, if every single network here is shoving FanDuel in our face and Caesars and DraftKings and whatever it is, I mean literally every single Underdog, I mean all these commercials are in our face. Every single NBA game I'm watching 20 commercials, 20 ads of all these sports books. I mean, the same ones over and over and over again. I can only see so much of Kevin Hart. I liked Kevin Hart at one point in my life. I don't think I like him anymore. It's way too much Kevin Hart. Remember the TNT games last year? They would like take a break in the middle of the first quarter, and they would be like, "Chuck, what's your Chuck's props for the night?" They've had like 4 or 5 Charles Barkley picks. As the game's going on, they're like, "Here's the props to bet on live betting." It's like they are doing it in the middle of games in the NBA. So I'm like, the NBA is a little bit responsible for this because they're literally like they're just shoving in our faces. And Mike, I don't know how you feel about it. I obviously have sympathy for those addicted to gambling and whatnot. Of course. But also understand in the same vein that, okay, just because they're promoting it doesn't necessarily mean you have to put your life savings in. That to the side. All that argument to the side. It's just so ridiculous how much is a part of the actual game. I think if you want to sports bet at a healthy amount, you can do that to the side. If you even want to promote it, you can do a commercial here or there. I feel like it being such a prevalent part of the broadcast and just the entire experience of watching a basketball game at this point. I remember I started watching basketball when I was 9 years old. Like 9-year-old me would be so fed up by now. I'd be like, hey, I can't gamble. Like, what is the point of this? Like, there's kids that watch this product like religiously that are super into the NBA. They are getting it shoved down their face who A, can't gamble, but B, don't want to hear it because they can't gamble. They're just sick of it. And I understand why that would be annoying. When we were 9 years old, were we getting these things shoved in our faces? No, we were not. So why can't we? No, it was like, American Idol or something. Exactly. It was something a little more wholesome. Very more wholesome, very more family friendly. Now it's just like prop betting, everything. It's out of control. They become like the UFC a little bit. Again, we both watch the UFC. It's like John Anik would come in the middle of the fight. It's like if you took Alex Pereira to knock out Yuri Prohaska, well, it's like he's like talking about prop betting in the middle of the fights. I'm like, okay, they become like the UFC a little bit, where they're literally like, as it goes over 2.5 rounds, they're like, if you just had it pops on the ticker, like, you just cash your. It's very like UFC now, where it's like it's a part of the game. Like the NBA is like gambling is a part of the NBA now. It's like
it's so slimy. It really is. And look, I worked for a gambling company. Okay, so this is who you're talking to right now. And I find it so disgusting. I really do, because I think there's a place in the world for sports betting responsibly. And I think, there's a lot of money in the sphere. So naturally, they're going to partner with these companies because they make them more money. I understand all of that. Okay? I understand every part of the argument, why it's good, why it's bad, why it's too much, why we should get over it. I understand all of it. Every single angle that you could possibly take. Been there, done that. Sure. I'm just tired of it. As simple as it is, I'm just tired of it.
By
it's
the way,
too much.
The gambleholics are going to find their sports bets anyways. They're going to go to their sports books anyways. You don't have to shove it all.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about the kids that really don't care about it. Like for us, we don't really need to see it all the time in every single basketball game that we watch.
Mike, there's people I know from college that hardly would watch basketball. They would just blind bet on random stuff all the time. What's the point of that? I just don't get it. But anyway, I'm sick of this topic already. Final thoughts on the first full slate. 28 of the 30 teams have played. Any final thoughts on anything you've seen?
Well, real quick, we have not watched the Denver Nuggets yet, and we've not watched the Indiana Pacers. I know you don't really care about watching the Pacers and reacting to them. But the Nuggets are going to be they're going to be an interesting watch tonight against the Warriors. That'll be one I'm actually going to be keeping tabs on.
Yeah,
sure.
Jokic has had the Warriors number really his entire career, so I'm expecting a massive Jokic game.
Huge Jokic game. So my final thoughts are initially the presentation. What do we thought about the network? So we obviously saw NBC on Tuesday night. Opening night, we saw ESPN kind of adopt inside the NBA. We don't have these he's got to step up. By the way, I'm so thankful that Stephen A is now off of our, at least for the time being right now, off of our pregame shows and the halftime shows and the postgame shows. Like we got inside the NBA pretty much as clear cut as it was in TNT. We had the same music, the same stuff. The only difference was we got a Popeyes sponsorship for them now instead of Kia. But overall, everything I love about the Inside the NBA is back on ESPN. I do think NBC really kicked them in the teeth on the presentation side of it on Tuesday night. I don't know what your thoughts on the pregame and postgame.
I mean, it's not even close. I thought NBC
was great. Yeah,
basically showed this is what basketball can feel like. And my mom, who is I'd say above average casual basketball fan, like she knows the names from my line of work and whatever, but she doesn't know like the seventh guy on Oklahoma City. Like, you know what I'm saying? So she's an above average casual fan. And those are the people I kind of like to see, I like to see their thoughts, what they think. Because at the end of the day, we're going to watch no matter what. If it's the worst looking product, whether it's the best, we're going to watch no matter what.
Yeah, for the
casual. She made a comment before I could even make it that I thought was interesting. She said, this feels like a playoff game and this feels important. And sure, that is easy to make a point of when a game goes to double overtime with the reigning champions and a team that has Kevin Durant. So I understand why that could be maybe an overreaction. But at the same time, just the presentation, just the announcers, everything, the flow of the game, how in between timeouts they were talking about like storylines that were going on or just, trends going on in the game. My only complaint was I hated how little they showed the stats that were happening. I like how kind of after every basket at this point, ESPN flashes like the player's stat line. I do like that. NBC needs to do that more. That's such an easy fix for them. I'm sure they will fix it at the same time.
And that's just graphic stuff. So like they'll be able to fix that. Like relatively.
Yeah. ESPN though, I mean, same stuff. I don't think Inside the NBA added any more really to it. I mean, it's better than the countdown or the jump or whatever led into it the last
those
few
were
years.
So bad. Let's be real here.
Yeah, those were abysmal and definitely hurt the product. I think Inside the NBA raised it. To me, it just felt like TNT 2.0. It really did.
It was literally
TNT.
Yeah.
It felt like ESPN's kind of gone. It's TNT 2.0 and it's NBC. But TNT also had plenty of problems that we would talk about.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is, I think, they don't really make the games feel that important, which they used to like maybe a decade ago, because they had the luxury of having these standalone games that ESPN now has the luxury of doing. I just need to see more of it. I want to see more important aspects in this games, whether that's more interviews, more storyline beats being talked about. I like some of the guys that they have on ESPN. I really like Jay Billis.
Yeah,
I
he's good.
really like Tim Legler.
Legler.
I like Mike Breen still. I just need to see something a little bit more. It's kind of hard to put your finger on, but clearly NBC has it, and
Yeah.
ESPN needs to get some of it to keep pace.
Here's what I would say though, and I'm used to on ESPN whenever the doubleheader games are over, they go right to Sports Center and they show a few highlights from a few games. I'm basically used to basketball being off my screen after that. With Inside the NBA post game, and I know they're in a much more demoted role. They only have, I believe, 20 to 30 shows instead of like 50 to 60 shows this year. So they're like, it's like cutting their work in half. But they went right from the end of the doubleheader Mavericks Spurs game to an hour and a half of Inside the NBA post game, like it used to be on TNT. Like that I missed. So I'm glad that that's at least there on ESPN. It basically is TNT 2.0, which at least is a little bit better than just ESPN. So we're getting a little bit better at that.
Agreed. Yeah.
But NBC's got it. And again, we got Amazon Prime tomorrow night on Fridays. We're going to see how their debut is too. So I'm interested to see how all the networks, portray this thing. But the last part here is and you sent it to me the other day, Adam Silver with the presentation in the finals. We're getting back to a little bit of what we had back in the day. Remember, they're putting the final script back on the actual course, not just kind of like, the technology part of it where they just kind of like aired it on like a technology. They're actually putting it on the hardwood. So if you were to go to a finals game, I had the luxury of going to Nuggets Heat 2 years ago, 2023. So 2 years ago when we were in there, and there is nothing on the hardwood. I mean, you can maybe see it if they air it technology wise on the broadcast, but if you're actually at the game, there is nothing on the hardwood besides obviously the sponsorships on the so for the Heat, it was
which really important. Not the finals.
Very, very important for the finals to have that on there. But yeah, so it was that, and now I guess we're going to be putting the final script back on the hardwood, which is really, really important to me. It makes me feel like, okay, the finals are actually going on. And you mentioned it, the Larry O'Brien Trophy is back on the finals court, so that is finally a fix that makes these games feel important for the casual observer. Of course, we're all going to watch anyways, but for the casual observer who now sees the Larry O'Brien Trophy on there, who now sees the final script on the hardwood, it makes it feel like it's a bigger game. I mean,
and it's something so simple. It's like if the graphics were gold again, and if there's maybe you add gold trim and the team that wins gets more gold trim and keeps that jersey for the next season, whatever it may be, there's subtle things that you can do to really enhance the entire package. And this is going to be a tease. I don't know when this is coming. My goal is the next 3 weeks. I'm still learning some software. I'm going to make a video not only on the Big Brother Fantasy Cast, the second chances. That's in the works right now. The script's almost done with that. But also, I'm going to do a State of the Union address on Adam Silver. I think that's a really interesting topic right now. I think he's getting a lot of faint praise. I think he's getting a lot of under-the-radar criticism. I want to kind of go through all that and kind of see how he's doing as commissioner of the NBA, because I have a lot of really intense thoughts on that.
Yeah, by the way, it almost was like the NBA community bullied him into making these changes almost a little bit. It's like, hey, he felt so much heat on, the presentation not being that good anymore in the last few years of the finals, specifically in the playoffs, really, that he finally is like, okay, we'll make some changes here. But it took a lot of the NBA community. I don't know if you saw it on Twitter and all social media platforms, where the NBA community and basketball hoop fans like us who really care about this stuff, like the nitty gritty stuff, not the casual observers, but the people who really, really care about the presentation and making the game bigger than what it is. They kind of got on him like hard, and he finally had to answer questions about this kind of stuff. He's like, "Oh, I didn't know people were that big into like that kind of stuff." So yeah, I guess sure, we'll try to find a way.
Yeah, which either suggests he's the most tone deaf person alive, or he's like the worst secretary team. One of the two.
Come on, yeah. So, but the fact that it's like a very simple, like you said, it's a very simple fix. He's like, yeah, we could probably figure out a way to put the Larry O'Brien Trophy back on the hardwood, where like they used to in 2008, 2009, 2010. Like, yeah, we could probably do that. We could probably put the final script back on there, which they've been doing since 2017. Or they have not been doing since 2017. So yeah, it's just like very tone deaf, but we're not going to tease the Adam Silver stuff right now. But it was like, okay, finally we're getting some semblance of like a little bit of nostalgia, a little bit of these games feel a little bit more important. And that was overall a very good initial thoughts on the first two opening nights.
Yeah, I don't really have anything more to add. If you missed our initial stuff, please go back. We have a 3-part series: Eastern Conference over-unders, Western Conference over-unders, and then award picks, season overlook, all that fun stuff. And then today we have this reacting to the first slate of games here. And then make sure after this to check out, we will have a Gurus on Reality Survivor October 22nd recap as well. So there's a lot of Gurus content. We're just pumping out more and more every week. I'm really working on getting us to create more short-term content for TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff. So be on the lookout as that. And then as I teased a little while ago, some YouTube videos to kind of supplement the podcast as well. There's so much in the works here. We're just getting started. We're only a few months into this, Mike, but it feels like we've done this for a long time. The sky feels really like the limit at this point.
Oh, we're cooking right now. And we're doing Survivor, we're doing Big Brother, we're doing NBA. We still have NFL stuff on the horizon. We haven't even dipped into the college football aspect either. Obviously, we know my Jays are in the World Series right now, so we got so much stuff going on in October. But we're doing a pretty damn good job.
Yeah, I agree. But we're gonna go record that Survivor episode right now. So again, be sure to tune into that. I am X. That is Mike, and we will see you next time.